Welcome to Introduction to OSHA Record Keeping Requirements. We have about 74 slides in the presentation, which will take an estimated 1 hour plus the quiz. Don't forget the quiz. We will discuss 9 sections of topics that are as follows. Section 1, Goals of OSHA Record Keeping Program. Section 2, Main Categories of OSHA Record Keeping and Definitions. Section 3, Who is required to do record keeping. Section 4, Maintenance, Location and Retention Requirements. Section 5, OSHA Legal Requirements for Reporting. Section 6, Formulating OSHA Incidence Rates. We have promised Sammy the Safety Sumo an extra bowl of super sushi if he will work this presentation, so he is armed and ready to go. Let's hope he remembers to swallow before he talks. Okay, it looks like we are on a hot streak of Hollywood blockbuster premiere movies with the topics we have listed so far, so let's keep going with the topics in today's discussion. Chapter 7, OSHA Record Keeping Examples. Chapter 8, Recordable Cases Categories. Chapter 9, Summary of the Presentation. Hey, did anybody remember to bring Sammy his root beer? You know he won't work without root beer.
Goals and objectives. Descriptive discussion of what accident records are commonly used. Definitive analysis of who needs to keep records, what records they need to keep, how long, and where. Comprehensive discussion of OSHA incidence rates. Goals. Define what an accident, injury and incident are. How a first aid report, accident investigation report, supplemental record or injuries and illnesses function. Discuss the uses for each type of report by management. Define what forms OSHA, your insurance company, will provide to comply with requirements. Discuss the location, retention and maintenance of records. Objectives. Give the employer what daily, weekly, monthly, yearly records need to be kept available for outside inspection. Impart on the employer when to report a recordable incident, what it is, and what follow-up measures are necessary. How to distinguish between illnesses and injuries.
The OSH Act of 1971 authorized the Secretary of Labor to develop and maintain an effective program of collection, compilation, and analysis of occupational safety statistics. OSHA issued required occupational safety recording and reporting requirements in the Regulation 29 CFR 1904. 29 CFR 1904 regulations were modified in 2002 with the addition of 29 CFR 1952.4 for injury and illness reporting requirements. Lastly, as far as MSTO knows, OSHA does not record my wrestling weight or what I had for dinner last night. Too bad. That is a lot more interesting than the rest of that stuff. Just kidding.
Reporting and recording injuries and illness give OSHA, the employer, and the employee tools that they can use to mitigate injuries and illnesses. Employers are better informed. OSHA uses the info to construct a top 10 most likely to be inspected list where injuries and illnesses are above an acceptable norm. OSHA will target those industries with high frequency and severity rates as well as those specific companies who have accident experiences outside their industry norms.
The OSH Act requires employers to make, keep and preserve record keeping to assist OSHA with enforcement of the Act or preventing injuries and illnesses. The Forms 300 and 301, which are the injury and illness prevention logs, are the legal requirement of every employer affected by the Act. Employer need to know what the definition of recordable injury and illness are by OSHA's definition.
Every OSHA inspection, after the introductions, will involve an examination of the company's record keeping by the OSHA inspector. The OSHA inspector is asking this so he or she knows where the potential problem areas are in the facilities or job site. The lack of OSHA record keeping or incomplete OSHA record keeping has a high probability of citation. The OSHA inspector may already know or suspect of a problem or multiple problem areas of the facility's job site.
Hey, do you know what is worse than finding out that you have a paperwork problem with OSHA? It's when a 400-pound guy like me gets jock itch. Where's Johnson's baby powder when you need it? The definition of a recordable injury for OSHA is different than what is recordable injury for workers' compensation. The workers' comp definition, which has been defined by the courts, is any injury which arises out of or in the course of employment. OSHA defines a recordable injury as a fatality, one or more lost work days, transfer to another job, termination of employment, medical treatment, loss of consciousness, restrictions on performance or motion, a diagnosed illness that is reported to the employer.
accident reports, first aid reports, accident investigation reports, employee injury and illness records are the most common used. An accident report should accomplish several objectives. First, establish all causes contributing to an accident occurrence. Second, objective, reveal questions an investigator should ask to determine all environmental and human causes of the incident. Third objective is to provide a means of accumulating accident data. The value of an accident report tends to diminish the further it gets from the time of the incident. Supervisors should be judged and judge their subordinates on promptly reporting within 24 hours incidents, either near miss or actual incident as close to its actual occurrence.
Investigation of near misses can be as valuable as investigation of accidents. True story. A pipe manufacturing operation yard in Paris, California had its 6-foot gate section fall down, hitting the ground and missing a worker at dusk closing time by only inches. The yard man was only inches in front of the fence when it fell. If he had been walking several seconds slower, the fence would have scalped him. The barbed wire on top of the fence ripped the back of his jacket to shreds. No injury, however, to the worker. An investigation showed that a novice welder was responsible for faulty welds that caused the gate to fail. Retraining was immediately scheduled for the novice welder. Definition: injury severity rate, the time lost through injuries as calculated in total days per 1,000 hours worked. The employee injury and illness log provides the employer with a tool to do accident analysis and prevention.
Reporting requirements. Definitions. Recordable injury, an injury arising out of or in the course of employment. Lost workday case, or to mean cases involving days away only, depending on the organization's definition. Lost time injury is an injury sustained by an employee that will ultimately lead to the loss of productive work time in the form of worker delays or absenteeism. Okay, I did my part for this presentation. When do I get to arm wrestle Sammy the safety sumo? He is just a pussycat.
Reporting requirements definitions continued 1. Experience mod. It is a number used by insurance companies to gauge both past cost of injuries and future chances of risk. To mitigate the insurance company's risk, they raise your worker compensation premiums to 29 CFR 1904 OSHA's Illness and Injury Record Keeping Standard for employers covering by the OSHA Act 3. Sharp's needle stick injury log. The employer can use Form 301 to record all work-related needle stick injuries and cuts from sharp contaminated objects.
Did you hear that girl who a couple of slides back wanted to wrestle Sammy the safety sumo? She's nuts. I am going to wrestle the skinny guy who wrote this training program. He is about my speed. Excuse me, I have to get back to work. Incident rate: the number of recordable injuries and illnesses occurring among a given number of full-time workers, usually 100 full-time workers, over a given period of time, usually 1 year. Calculating an incident rate means determining the total number of recordable injuries and illnesses for the calendar year. Sum columns GJ. Next, find out number of injuries illness with days away from work. Next, determine the total number of hours worked in the calendar year by all employees. The formula: total No of injuries illness x 200,000 hours divided by number of hours worked by all employees equals recordable case rate.
Hey, this is my favorite part: near misses. I used to have a lot of near misses down the singles bars with some of those young lovelies. Okay, I am getting back to work. Here we go. What is a near miss? Near miss is an unplanned event that did not result in injury, illness, or damage, but had the potential to do so. Only a fortunate break in the chain of events prevented an injury, fatality, or damage.
Sammy here, folks. I was in the back room powdering my nose for my next photo shoot when the brunette challenged me to a wrestling match. I'll only do it if she is under 500 pounds. Supervisor accident report forms need to fulfill the requirements of Form 300 and 301. Must be able to be used as a basis of accident investigation. First aid reports. First report of injury form. It can be done by direct supervisors or, in the case of larger companies, the departmental nurse. Nurses and supervisors need to know enough about accident analyses, record keeping, and investigation to properly fill out a first aid report.
In some cases, an employee may require repeat treatment. This supervisor or nurse needs to be able to judge the seriousness of the situation, fully filling out first aid reports. Accident reports are items which top management should include in annual performance appraisals. First aid reports should be submitted to the safety officer in addition to the individual's direct supervisor.
Filling out Form 300 steps. This part is probably the general public's least favorite part of dealing with accidents but has to be done. Step 1. Identify the employee. For example, MSTO employee Sammy the safety sumo identified as a company employee. Step 2. Describe the case. For example, on November 22, 17, MSTO employee Sammy the safety sumo slipped on company banana peel and crushed a company desk with 400 pounds of wrestling muscle, injuring his toenail in the process. I probably won't be saying much to Sammy about the injury because he outweighs me by 300 pounds. Step 3. Classify the case. Example: MSTO employee Sammy the safety sumo injured toenail has to fit into one of 12 categories. Let's look at what they are. Column G is used if Sammy the safety sumo becomes an ex-sumo and is registered as a fatality. If the desk died in the process, it doesn't count. I once wrestled Sammy, but as you can see from my hair, I lost.
Column H. Fill in the days away from work due to injury. Remember to count calendar days, not work days. Column I. If Sammy the safety sumo stayed in the wrestling profession, note if he was in restricted work duty or had a job transfer and became the company's secretary. Column J. Use this column if this case involved other recordable cases such as Sammy's cousin, Stuart the safety sumo who injured his toenail, crushed a desk but otherwise lived. Where's the cutie Sammy at? I have the hots for him.
Column K. Enter the number of calendar days that Sammy spent away from work and was chasing geisha girls. Count up to 180 calendar days before stopping. Column L. Use this column to enter the number of days that Sammy was on work restricted duty. Do not add in the number of calories in his lunch meal, it's irrelevant. Column M1. Enter a check to indicate that Sammy got bruised toenail. Other examples: burns, fractures, lacerations, electrocutions, pulled groin muscles, etc.
Column M2 column used for skin disorders or illnesses. For example, if Sammy came down with botulism and needed time off. Ulcers and rash is also covered. Column M3 use this column for respiratory problems such as silicosis, reactive airways, beryllium disease, toxic inhalation, etc. Column M4 use this column for poisoning situations. Let's say Sammy's fish sushi had a high level of mercury. Other examples are arsenic, lead, hydrogen sulfide, etc.
Let's continue with filling out the form. Column M5. Use this column for hearing loss situations that you may uncover while hearing testing your employees. Column M6. Use this column for all other injuries. Let's say Sami was wrestling in an arena with no air conditioning and suffered heat stroke. This column covers that. Step 4. OSHA 300A log. Form 300 log needs to be maintained all year round to reflect changes that occur. Line out recordable cases that are later found to be non-recordable.
Hey, are there other OSHA forms to fill out? Yes, there are, and the guy on the left needs to get out of costume to fill them out. The form 300 summary log has begun. Check it out. Steps to filling out Form 300A. Step 1. Enter establishment name, industry, SIC code. End of the year, enter average number of employees, total hours worked. Add the signature of a company executive to certify that the info is correct. Step 2. Enter the total number of cases, deaths, job transfer, restricted work cases. Step 3. Enter total number of days away from work, restricted, job transfer. Step 4. Enter the total number of injuries, illness from column M1. Let's talk for a little bit about the consequences of accidents, besides the paperwork. Here are some of them: damage to equipment and property, litigation costs, possible citations, lost productivity, suffering morale with employees, possible injury and death.
Positive outcomes to an accident include change to safety programs, making it more effective, accident investigation, prevent recurrence, changes to production procedures and minimizing loss potential as well as equipment design.
Who is covered by 29 CFR 1904? Thank you for asking that question. Employers who are covered by the law have more than 11 employees at any time during the year. Employers who have needless stick injuries and cuts from sharp objects that are another person's blood contaminated, or OPIM. OPIM stands for other people's infectious materials.
Employers who have a fatality or inpatient hospitalization of 3 or more employees must report within 8 hours to OSHA. If a business has 10 or fewer employees in a low-hazard industry, you do not have to keep records.
According to OSHA Record Keeping Answer Book, 4th edition, these industries are partially exempt. See Figure 5.1. Partial exempt industries, pages 106-108. These SIG codes are everything from museums and art galleries to security and commodity brokers to dairy product stores to insurance carriers.
Figure 5.3 on page 110 of OSHA Record Keeping Answer Book lists SIC codes that are newly partially exempt industries. There are 16 industries listed covering a wide range of occupancies such as hardware stores, retail bakeries, dance studios, bowling centers, theatrical productions, medical and dental laboratories, miscellaneous health and allied services. Let's keep talking accident reports until we are bored with the topic. Third accomplishment of accident reports is to provide a means of accumulating accident data. The value of an accident report tends to diminish the further it gets from the time of the incident. Supervisors should be judged and judge their subordinates on promptly reporting incidents, either near miss or actual incident as close to its actual occurrence.
Employers who expect to be in business for 1 year or longer must keep accident records for each location that they expect to be at. The records for all locations must be kept at a centrally established headquarters within 7 calendar days. Records from the central location must be able to be sent to secondary locations within acceptable time frames.
What are my responsibilities for maintaining OSHA record-keeping reports? Thanks for asking that question. Establishment is a single location where business is conducted or where services or industrial operations are performed. Distinctly separate activities performed at a separate location be treated as a separate establishment. Let's talk fixed establishment. Records kept at work location. Records for employees who report to the fixed location every day but work elsewhere should be kept there. Records for employees who do not report to a single location should have their records kept at the base from which they are paid.
If the employee does not report to fixed establishment on a regular basis, the records should be kept at the following locations. Records can be kept at a field office or mobile base of operations such as a construction site trailer. Records may be kept at an established central location. If this is the case, the address and telephone number of the record location must be available at work site. Someone must be available at the central site during normal business hours to provide the needed tabulation data when requested.
Let's talk experience mod. Collecting your accident data provides the background to getting an experience mod. Term used in the American insurance business and more specifically in workers' compensation insurance. It is the adjustment of annual premium based on previous loss experience. Experience rating is mandatory for your employers that meet the minimum premium eligibility threshold. It is handled by the National Council on Compensation Insurance, who provide a website that can calculate your experience mod. To calculate your experience mod, go to http://www.ncrb.org/moodcock/instruction.desks.
Now it is time to talk Turkey incident rates. Here is the definition. The rate is the number of recordable injuries and illnesses occurring among a given number of full-time workers over a given period of time. Find out the number of recordable injuries and illness during a calendar year from line entries on the Form 300 or 300A. Find out the number of days away from work for each of the entries on Form 300 in total, as well as restricted work days or job transfer as a result of injury. Companies can compare their incident rates with other companies using Bureau of Labor Statistics annual reports.
Accident report should contain the following: Description of incident and injuries. Sequence of events. Pertinent facts discovered during investigation. Conclusions of the investigator. S. Recommendations for correcting problems.
Preparing a final accident report. Be objective. State facts. Assign cause. S. Not blame. If referring to an individual's actions, don't use names in the recommendation.
Preparing a final report. Determine corrective actions. Use investigation team to its fullest potential.
Recommendations based on key contributory factors and underlying or root causes. Deliver your recommendations in a timely manner to make them more relevant. You will find that people will listen much more carefully to recent events.
Your investigation team should have the power to implement their recommendations. Recommendation S must be communicated clearly and objectively. Strict timetable established. Follow-up conducted.
Let's summarize it all up. The report must be filled out completely by the employee and employee's immediate supervisor. Company accident forms, available at OSHA.gov if none are available with company. The form must be turned in within 24 hours of the event. The form should be legible and easy to understand. Remember who your audience is. I am betting your audience probably won't be the same people who watch Sammy wrestle. Even I could beat that pussycat. The potential benefits of a well-prepared final report include improvement of operational and safety procedures. Your priority, increase productivity and safety for yourself and your fellow workers. Your report should raise safety awareness level.
Is this a recordable injury case? Minus 2015 OSHA letter. Scenario. An employee scratched his index finger on a vinyl saw clamp at work. He immediately began walking to the exit first aid station to obtain a Band-Aid. On the way, the injured employee met a co-worker who told him that he had a Band-Aid in his pocket. As the co-worker began to apply the Band-Aid, the injured employee looked at his finger where there was a small amount of blood on the skin adjacent to the nailed bed. The worker immediately became lightheaded and fainted. The injured worker did not incur any additional injury or treatment. When he regained consciousness, the employee indicated that he fainted because he cannot tolerate seam blood. Yes, Section 1904.7b(1)(v) provides that a work-related injury or illness must be recorded if it results in loss of consciousness.
Example number 2. If an employee hurts his or her arm on the job but is told by the doctor for 1 week, is this restricted work activity if the employee is never required to use both his or her arm for their job function? No, it is not restricted work activity if the employee is able to perform all of his or her job functions. A job function is defined as an activity which the employee performs once a week regularly. Example number 3. What is considered prescription strength medication and how does an employer determine if non-prescription medicine has been prescribed at prescription doses?
Example number 3. Answer. The employer must understand prescription strength is determined by measured quantity of a therapeutic H to be taken at one time. Common over-the-counter drugs are ibuprofen such as Advil is greater than 467 mg. Diphenhydramine, Adderall, is greater than 50 mg. Naproxen, Aleve, is greater than 220 mg.
Employers who expect to be in business for 1 year or longer must keep accident records for each location that they expect to be at. The records for all locations must be kept at a centrally established headquarters within 7 calendar days. Records from the central location must be able to be sent to secondary locations within acceptable time frames. I would like to take this opportunity to announce my engagement to the wonderful hulk of a man, Senator Safety Smooth. We're headed to Samoa to be married. Wish us luck. Because he weighs 4 times what I do.
If your company has 11 employees or more at any time during the year, it meets the minimum number of employees and OSHA records must be kept. There are numerous occupancies that are exempted from OSHA's 1904 record-keeping standard. Refer to OSHA's record-keeping answer book for listings. If you are covered under the 1904 law, you must post the Form 301 in a public place such as a company billboard for all employees to view. I can confirm my engagement to that sweet brunette Betty Bob. I know we will be very happy together because she lets me eat my sushi and hers. What a woman.